Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Music of the Week. I'm again aware that this is coming quite late, but screw it, I got about 6 albums to go through, so let's go through them as quickly, well, I'll go through them as quickly as I can. We begin with Almost Honest and their newest album, The Hex of Penswood. Now this is a first time for me, in fact, that's something I'm going to say for like 5 or 6 months a day, spoiler alert, just looking them up. This is not a band I'm too familiar with, they're sort of a doomy, stone metal-y sort of vibe. Interesting one though, I'm giving it a B. And I quite liked the elements of it. I thought it married the stoner rock vibes to the doom vibes quite well. I did like the lyricism, focusing on weird stories. It didn't really have a theme, but it focused on all this like strange shit, which I actually quite liked. I thought the performances were quite good too. I think from a production standpoint as well, it's quite clean, really polished off, but it does have a nice organic feel to the details. However, I think the pacing is kind of one of its drawbacks as well. Because way too many of the songs like just kind of go on and on and on, and I get that like part of the charm of doom metal usually is that a song will carry on for a bit longer than it needs to, but when married with stoner rock, and I don't mind a good stoner rock scale, and there's quite a lot of them, but at the same time it feels a tiny bit excessive at some points, but that's just me. I do mostly enjoy the rest of it. I think the songwriting is solid, and I think the performances are good. And I think the production is quite nice. I just think it is an album that needed to actually get in its own way a bit more. It let itself run a bit too freely at times for me, but I think most of it works. Most. Next we have Crucium Mensum with their new album Obsidian Refractions. Now this is a band. This is a sort of black metal-y death metal group, more focused on the death metal. It's got like the harsh dissonance of death metal all over it. I'm giving it a B minus. So to be honest, this is an album that just sort of like, for the most part, it did feel like an album that just sort of went in the one ear and then just sort of popped out the other one. And I thought this was a new band as well, but this is their first like full-length album in 8 years, and they've been around since like 2007, I think. But I do like more of the album than I initially did, if that makes sense. I'll get to it. So, I do think it's got some really good death metal trappings to it. I do like the dissonance, and I've said that already. The lyrics I couldn't fucking find anything, mostly just deal with death and anger and depression and shit, so yeah, that's something we need more of as the holidays are kicking in. Although the performances were quite good, I think there's a new member on this one. I will admit, I think a lot of the guitar work is what saved it for me. I think there's like a few good solos on this album. By the way, there's only 6 songs, but it's stretched to quite a good length. I think it might be the longest album for the past weekend. It's got some okay. It doesn't have a lot of interesting stuff necessarily going for it, but if you want some good heavy death metal that really feels like an old school throwback solid death metal, I can recommend this one. I think the production is something that does help it along as well, and I think the structuring, it doesn't really slog itself too much. Considering that the last song is like 10 minutes long, it's weird how they're able to actually get quite a lot in. They could have done a bit more, or maybe space things out at times, but it's a good bit of unrelenting, death metal. And for the band's first album in 8 years, it doesn't feel like they've lost a lot of steps, even though this is my first experience with them. I don't know, it's a bit of a strange one for me, but I do think the positives outweigh the negatives. Next we have Jonathan Young, specifically sort of technically his band Judge and Jury, which is also the record label this was released on, and the new album Children of Night. I think this is Jonathan's third offering, and I quite like Jonathan Young. I don't listen to him as much as I should, though. I give this one a B. I thought it was really good, like, sort of classic heavy metal leaning hard rock stuff. I thought it had some really good parts to it. I liked a lot of the guitar work. Most of it courtesy of Rashad E.B. He does a really good job. I wish there were more keyboard solos from Jonathan himself, though. I thought the guest spots were quite good. Rashad E.B. is great, as is Lauren Babick on her one song. There's a couple of others that are also quite good. I thought the lyrics were really good as well. I like that they use religious tones, like religious metaphor for, a political thing. I thought the performances were quite good too. I thought the guest spots were great. I think Jonathan's got an amazing voice. He's got a really good deep tone to him. And the dude can scream. I didn't know that until I listened to this album. The dude can scream. I wish he did it more. I think production-wise, very clean. Probably handled by Jonathan himself. I don't remember if it was on that. Again, where it falls apart a little bit for me is elements of the structuring. Not because they were bad, but like so many of the songs felt repetitive and it got weirdly predictable, especially towards the back half of the album. I mean, it's good as it is. It does have a really good, like, powerful stomp to it. But when you can easily predict stuff, like, it did feel like, you know, solid intro, verse, chorus, bridge, final chorus, sort of an outro thing. It doesn't really vary that a lot, but it is a good formula to stick to, and I like how well it sticks to it, so maybe give it a listen for that. It's still a really good album, and Jonathan Young is still really good at what he does, so if you're into that, give it a spin. Next we have a project I wasn't initially familiar with until I listened to this album. Obviously, I think I saw it in like a Kerrang review. I know I shouldn't base what I listen to on a review, but this is Merkur. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, with the new album Spine. Merkur is a one-woman project by someone named Emily Brun, who is a Danish singer, and she has like a backing band to help her, but it is mostly her thing. And I'm giving this one a B+, which is the highest grade that any album gets in this episode, but this is not the only album to get it. However, this is quite possibly my favourite album of the past weekend, or at least my most recommended one. So let's get through why I enjoyed it so much. So, I like the central sort of concept. It does sort of tell a story of a mother and a child, and considering that Emily is a mother herself, it does feel like a lot of those songs written from like a personal and very heartful experience. I quite like how that was handled. I like the unique blend of genres as well. From what I understand, I think she's been doing this the entire time, but she mixes black and gothic metal with folk rock. Danish folk rock, no less, and it just blends together so well. And I'm not really sure how else I can explain it. I just like a lot of the riff work, you know? I like how it always finds really nice and organic ways to worm its way back around. I've already gone over the lyrics. The performances are really good. Emily herself is obviously like the standout. Her vocals are incredible. She tells a really good story. I do like the production as well. Handled quite cleanly, quite organic as well. Really serves the sound nicely. Adds a lot of layering, which I quite enjoyed. My problem is, again, sort of with the structuring, but I don't think it's inherently anyone's fault. I felt like it was too short of an album. I wanted a couple more songs, and I wanted it to feel like a more cohesive narrative. Because I really liked what this had to say, and this was her first album in like 3 years, I believe. Yeah, I really enjoyed so many elements of this album, and, you know, I never thought I would hear folk rock mixed with black metal, but here we are, and it sounds amazing gone together. I should probably check out all the stuff. Yeah, no, go check this one out. I quite liked it. Next, we have the only artist who I've listened to before and covered before, Of Mice and Men, with their new album Tether, and C+. Like, let's go to the episode. C+. It's an Of Mice and Men album. I mean, you kind of know exactly what you're getting. It sort of, from a pacing standpoint, it has the same problems as Jonathan Young's album did, but like way more predictable, when it could have easily just like gone more off the rails. Like, the one song that even tries to do that is Eternal Pessimist, which is easily the best song on this album, and after that it just doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. I think the instrumentals are alright, good metalcore breakdowns for the most part, nothing too stand out. Lyrics, I can't remember what the bloody themes are, but they do feel like the stuff that... It feels actually a bit more watered down than what the band usually writes, from what I'm used to by them. I don't mind the performances. I do think Aaron Pauley is a really good vocalist when he wants to be. He just... I don't know, he felt like he reined it in a bit too much. It was self-produced by the band as well. I think that might have had a play in it, because they get to decide exactly how to like write it and mix it and stuff. And it's clean and polished and fine. Structurally wise, again, fine. That's kind of my big thing about the album. It just doesn't feel like it stands out in any specific area. Like, it doesn't throw anything new at the table, and it feels weirdly run-of-the-mill, but I can't inherently call it bad. I can't even call it lazy. It's just kind of what's to be expected, but like at the same time, I do want them to start changing shit up, you know? So, I still recommend you give it a spin. If you want to, you might get more out of this, and it's gotten more positive reviews than the one I've given it, but it just feels like it doesn't really go to any new places for the band, which is fine for some bands, you know? And especially for a band like Of Mice and Men. So if you want something that you would expect from them, this is probably a good jumping on point. And finally, we do have not a fucking debut, because the other albums this man has listed on Spotify are long enough to count as other albums, we have Ryan Oakes with his newest album, Wake Up. Ryan Oakes is mostly a rap artist. I first heard about him through a rap cipher that Crips did. I think it was his second one. I did quite like this album though. I like the rap rocky elements it provides. I'm giving this one a B+, by the way. Yeah, my second B+ grade. Really enjoyed Ryan's central performance. I think he's very charismatic. He's got a really good flow, and I like the sort of slight rough edge he has to his voice. I didn't mind the rock elements as much as I thought I was going to, but like I like that there's sort of, it can feel a little bit basic, but I like that it's more of a focus on the rock elements, and it doesn't just try to worm in hip hop beats in a really bad way, and it doesn't really use hip hop beats a whole lot. I actually like how it's more of a rock experimentation than a hip hop experimentation, And I like the guest spots as well. Magnolia Park and Loveless are standouts, and there was another one, Echo. Oh god, his guest spot song is fucking amazing as well. Ryan himself, again, really good performer, really good writer. I like the lyrics about his mental health journey and anxiety and relationships. Solid themes too. Production wise, yeah, really good, really well handled, as you would expect from rap, obviously. Just really nicely put together in a lot of its areas. Good texturing on some areas. I like how it makes a lot of the sound pop. And what could have been like an oversaturated feeling thing, I'm glad that this album doesn't feel that way. And structurally wise, again, maybe my biggest maybe the album's biggest flaw, in my opinion. I do think it needed a couple of the songs to be a bit longer, as it does feel like most of them are really interesting ideas. I want to see them fleshed out a little bit more. But for what they are, they're very good songs, they're very impactful, and they do pretty much what they need to do, and they showcase what the album's really good with, so... again, not really many complaints, just a really good rap rock album, and Ryan is only 27, he's got some of his best years ahead of him still, so I hope he learns from the small mistakes on this album and just continues to go upwards. This was really good stuff from him. And that'll about do it for the 6 albums I just covered just now in this video. The ranking system goes of Mice and Men with Tether, Cruciamentum, with Obsidian Refractions, Almost Honest with the Hex of Penn's Woods, Jonathan Young with Children of Night, Ryan Oakes with Wake Up, and Mercure, I have no clue if I'm saying that correctly, with Spine. And my favourite album cover goes to Ryan Oakes with Wake Up. I like how artsy it feels. It looks like a fucking sketchbook art. It just looks really cool. But that'll about do it for this. As for what's next from me, possibly a reaction tomorrow, but more importantly, the Go Home show. I've set up the entire card pretty much on my own, so I'm quite happy with how it looks. It looks like a good fucking card. But yeah, the Go Home show tomorrow for Deck the Brawls, which is going to be next week. That's going to be a lot of fun. But I'll see you all for that when they drop. And I'll see quite possibly on Sunday as well. Maybe for a Fight of the Night review, because there wasn't a UFC card last weekend, so free time off. And I'll see you all, tomorrow. As always, thank you for watching. You're awesome. Bye-bye.